All right, class, in case y'all are having any trouble with the first project, I wanted to make a quick video just to walk y'all through it. You need to make sure that you have, by now in the course, installed your Citrix receiver. Directions were given in the under resources and add-ons and course add-ons. Also, I have information in the announcements from the beginning of the course. So make sure everybody has installed Citrix receiver and added in SPSS as one of the programs that you can access. If you haven't done that already, you'll want to definitely make sure you read all the announcements from earlier in the course, get that Citrix receiver installed so that you should have SPSS showing up just as I do on my screen. So you'll go ahead and click SPSS. When you do that, this should show up and it will open up SPSS. Now, because we're going to be typing in raw data, you have your Project 1 data already provided for you. Y'all's is going to be something like number of chocolate bars. Okay, I'm going to make up a hypothetical data set to show you, but it won't be the same numbers that you'll be using. So I'm just going to click type in the data, click OK, and then I want to go to variable view first and put the name of my variable. What you're going to want to remember is that SPSS can only take variables with one word. So like y'all's has to do with number of chocolate bars, but you're going to maybe just have to type in chocolate bars with an underscore between the word chocolate and the word bars, so it treats it as just one word. I'm just going to type in the word scores and use my hypothetical data set. Then I press enter and notice it auto-populates the cells. And really the only one I want to change here is the decimals, because my scores are going to be whole numbers, just like the number of chocolate bars that you're going to be dealing with in your Project 1 data set are also whole numbers. So to get rid of decimal mess, I just want to arrow down and change this to no decimal places. You'll want to do the same thing. Then I'll click on Data View down here, and this is where you're going to enter the numbers from your data set. I've already got the numbers ready, so I'm just going to copy paste. But realize you'll be typing yours in one number at a time. Now, several things you're asked for. Question 1, identify the level of measurement. Well, that's up to you to go back to the textbook reading and decide whether you believe your variable is at the nominal, ordinal, interval, or ratio level of measurement. So y'all read up on that again and make sure you're clear on what level of measurement your variable is at. The next thing is you'll be creating a frequency table, a histogram, and finding mean, median, mode, standard deviation, and variance. All right, so I'm going to first walk you through how to find the descriptive statistics, the mean, the median, the mode, the standard deviation, and the variance, because I want to do that first, mainly because I need things like my range of the data set before I can construct my frequency table. So in order to calculate descriptive statistics, you're just going to click Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, Frequencies, and when it brings up this pop-up, you need to move whichever variable you're interested in over to the variable box. Well, I only have scores since I only have one column of data. So therefore, I'm just going to click this in the middle, move it over, and it's made it active in the variable box. I'm then going to click the Statistics tab and check off mean, median, mode, standard deviation, and variance. Now, you're going to also want the range and the min and the max to help you do your frequency table. So I'm going to also check off those, click Continue, and I can already get SPSS to generate my histogram for me by clicking Charts and Histograms. All right, once you do that, you'll click Continue and then OK, and the SPSS output will give you your mean that you need, the median that you need, the mode, although notice the mode says that there are multiple modes that exist and only the smallest value is given. I will show you a way that you can figure out what the other modes are, so hang on just a second for that. Here's your variance and here's your standard deviation. So you've got all the numbers that you need for questions 4 and 5. And all you'll really want to do is copy and paste this graph to your first project as a way to support how you got your answers. And you can just go ahead and click right click and then copy and paste in order to do that. Okay, so you just right click on this box and then copy and then paste it into your Word document for your project. All right, otherwise, when you do get multiple modes, it means there are other numbers besides this, just the 86, that occurred just as many times as the 86 did. So what we're going to do to get the other modes is we're going to click up here on data and sort the variables. And I'm going to click on name and then OK. And notice it's given me these scores right here. All the individual scores are given because I actually typed in 20 scores. And it tells you the frequencies of each individual score. Well, notice the 86 occurred 3 times, but so did the 88. So there are really 2 modes here, both the 86 and the 88. And once again, you can just copy and paste this just by right-clicking in the box. See how the box is highlighted? Right-click and then copy and paste that to support how you're getting both of your modes. So that should be pretty easy to calculate the descriptive statistics part of your first project. Now, a little more complicated is going to be the frequency table. The histogram you've really already got. I'm going to be fine on y'all just going back up here, or actually right down here, and using this same histogram that SPSS creates. In other words, you don't have to, for me, worry about getting exactly the number of classes that the assignment asks for, because it's just as easy to use this. So we're going to go ahead and just use this. You'll right-click and copy and paste your histogram as your answer to question 3 on the project. So it's really pretty easy to get everything you need so far, except for the frequency table that's asking you to have 6 classes. And that's what I'm now going to walk you through for the rest of the video. All right, so to do the frequency classes, and y'all, all of the frequency table, all of this is outlined in your tutorials that were provided. And y'all, I gave y'all the link to the website that gives you the SPSS tutorials. So far, you should have already watched the data entry, the frequency table and histogram one, and the descriptive statistics. So you should have already watched 3 of the tutorials. I provided that website in the, I believe it's in the announcements, or it's either might be in instructor add-ons. And if you cannot find it or just have feel like you don't know where to find it, then please post in instructor individual forum or questions to instructor so I can make sure you get that. But again, by this point of the course, I hope you've already taken the time to work through those tutorials. Okay, so finally, to do this frequency table, what we're going to do is click on transform. And actually, let me show you this first, actually, because we need this first. All right, let me scroll up. And what we need to determine the width of our intervals is we need the range, which, remember, the range is just the maximum minus the minimum. So if you look here and you see that your maximum was a 96 and your minimum was a 68, when you subtract those 2 numbers, that's how we're getting that the range is 28. In order to get the width of your intervals, you are basically taking the range and dividing it by the number of intervals. That was presented in your textbook. So if you were to take 28 and divide it by 6, because the assignment asked for 6 classes, or in other words, 6 intervals, 28 divided by 6 gives you like 4.67 or something. And you always round up to the next whole number. So what that's letting me know is that my interval width needs to be 5. You'll have to do that math yourself. And again, just follow the formula presented in the textbook. Okay, so range divided by the number of intervals gives me my interval width, once I round it up to a whole number, of 5. You're going to want to keep that in mind, that our interval width that we want is 5. And that our minimum value is a 68. Of course, y'all's will be different based on the data set that you're given for your projects. So now we'll click on transform, go to visual binning, and whatever variable we are trying to bin, and y'all, the word bin just means put it into groups, basically. We're going to click and move that over and click continue. It will then bring this up, and what things that we want to check. We first of all will need to name a new variable, and you can just use scores. I'm using scores binned. Whatever the name of your variable is, you can just do the name of that underscore binned. So notice what I typed in, and again, it all has to be one word. Making sure that it has the appropriate minimum of 68 and the maximum of 96, which it does. Remember, we had checked that earlier. All right, then you need to come down here. It works best to make sure that we get 6 classes or intervals, which is what the assignment called for, by clicking the excluded, then making the cut points, and we will put our first cut point location as our minimum value, which was a 68. Since we want 6 intervals for 6 classes, I'm going to put that I want 6 cut points. The interval width, if I click my mouse in there, automatically calculates it. And remember, when I had done the range divided by 6, I got like 4.667. But because I want that in whole number values, I'm going to round it up to 5. All right, then what you're going to do is go ahead and just click Apply. And then we're going to make the labels. And notice it gives me these labels. Now, realistically, it's going to have just 6 intervals because I don't have any numbers less than 68. So it's going to actually calculate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 intervals just like it asked for. And then we'll click OK and click OK. And what it's done is it will, let's see, it's given instructions for binning. Now for right now, you don't see any benefit to that. But if we now go back into Analyze and Descriptive Statistics and Frequencies, notice it now has a new variable here, which is my bin scores. So I want to now click on my bin scores and move it over. And I already have my statistics checked off like I like, so I don't need anything new there. And I already have chart histogram, which you really already are going to use your first initial histogram that you got because it's got the appropriate values from the data set. So nothing really new there, but what's going to be nice is once you've moved this bin scores over and you click OK, make sure Display Frequency Tables is checked because what I'm going to show you is that it will produce your frequency table that you need. So I'm going to click OK. It's going to give me some new output. Now what I don't like is that it gives you a new histogram down here, but it's got bin scores, and those aren't really, those don't align. It's a histogram of the data, but it's got some strange bin scores here. They don't really align with the actual numbers in the data set. That's why I personally prefer you to go ahead and just copy paste this histogram that had the actual scores down here that were the numbers from the actual data set. But what's going to be nice is if you'll keep scrolling down, you're going to go right up above these histograms that it produced and notice it's got the frequency table that you need. Here are our 6 intervals, 68 to 72, 73 to 77. And notice if you look at the distance between 68 and 73, there's our interval width of 5. And from 73 to 78, interval width of 5 and so forth. So it did our appropriate interval width, and it's actually got our 6 intervals. Because if you look at how many frequencies there are 6. So that's going to be perfect to include for your frequency table. All you're going to need to do is right-click and copy and paste that frequency table to your Word document for your project. And that is really it. You'll have to identify the level of measurement for question 1. I just showed you how to do the frequency table for question 2. I showed you how to generate your histogram that you can copy-paste for question 3. And questions 4 and 5 are just do the calculations, easy to do once you get familiar with SPSS. So I hope that y'all find that is helpful. Please go ahead and just ask questions in your individual forums or questions to instructor if you feel like it's relevant for all your classmates as well. And hopefully I can get y'all some help before you submit by Sunday night.